To celebrate Red Dead Redemption and this video, I've designed these shirts, available through roller.co.uk.
My daughter informs me that you're here on some secret mission to remove some undesirables from the county.
Something like that. My name's John Marston. I'm married. I have a son. I had a daughter, but she died. Years before that, I rode in a gang. We robbed banks, trains, held people ransom. We killed people we didn't like. Bill Williamson was in that gang. Well, my family's health and well-being are being threatened by some unscrupulous government agents, and my own hard-won freedom is under duress. I'm many things, most of them bad. I'm here to capture or kill Bill Williamson.
You see, Mr. Marston, you have the exterior of a violent man, but the soul of an angel, and that is what I think I cherish most about you.
Now, if I don't capture my former brother in arms, great harm will befall my family.
What is wrong with this country? I thought you were supposed to protect us, you folk-eating men! You ain't nothing!
All I care about is Williamson.
You want the girl, John?
Williamson's a proud fool. The question is which will win out between his pride and his instinct for survival.
Some men pass through life without making a mark on the world, while others tear a gorge so deep it becomes the landscape to which we become so accustomed. Red Dead Redemption echoes John Marston's legacy in that respect, by being a pioneer in the gaming world. It began development in 2005 and would only be released by Rockstar 5 years later in 2010. With a budget in the region of $100 million, it's still one of the most expensive games ever developed. Rockstar seemed to have made a healthy profit though, selling over 15 million copies of the game, which won it the best-selling Western-themed game by Guinness World Records in 2011. You might think that's nothing compared to sales of games today, like say Grand Theft Auto 5 for example, but you have to remember this was back in 2010. The gaming world wasn't as developed as it is at present, and graphics weren't as sharp as today's standards. That didn't stop fans like me loving the game however. In fact, within the first month of release, Red Dead Redemption's players punched in over 30 hours of gameplay time on average. Gamers' love for Red Dead Redemption is mirrored in its Metacritic score, which sits at an impressive 95 for both the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. As for what people got up to in game, well the numbers, although slightly outdated, speak for themselves. Within 2 weeks of Red Dead Redemption's release, 131 million people in game had been murdered, 1.8 million horses stolen, and 860,000 people robbed. Over 15 million human executions had taken place, which is 67,000 times more than the number of actual real-life executions carried out by America since 2010. An impressive figure of $3 billion was spent in-game, a fraction of the stomach-churning $21 trillion America's in debt for. And over 13 million US soldiers were killed, in-game. Before you go ahead and think those numbers prove games make people violent, remember all those people were at home playing video games. Red Dead Redemption has its own secrets, albeit less manipulative and life-destroying. These are in the form of the game's many Easter eggs, and I do mean many. The game is littered with references and things to find, yet some things are still very subtle. By far the easiest to find are the names on the tombstones. These pay homage to game characters, real world people and even films. Like the grave mark to Emma Crawford, a woman in real life who had to be reburied into a grave after her coffin was eerily unearthed from its resting place and slid down a hill. This event is oddly celebrated by the people of the Pikes Peak region of Colorado with the annual Emma Crawford coffin race. One anomalous grave seems to belong to one Harrison Cherra who died 1968, some 57 years after the events of Red Dead Redemption. However, fans believe this to be an elaborate reference to the Beatles, in particular referring to Eric Clapton gifting George Harrison a cherry guitar, a guitar Harrison used in many famous Beatles songs. In Blackwater Chapel you'll find the phrase "Wake me if something interesting happens" inscribed on a grave headstone. This is thought to be either referencing Red Dead Redemption's Undead Nightmare DLC, where the dead rise, or a nodding towards Halo, as at the end of Halo 3, Master Chief utters the line, "Wake me if you need me."
I'll drop a beacon, but it'll be a while before anyone finds us. Years, even. I'll miss you.
Wake me when you need me.
To find all the Tombstone references will take you a fair amount of time, but it's a lot of fun. Just remember to keep your eyes peeled and your ears open. While you're looking, keep an eye out for messages scribbled on walls and caves, as these are cheat codes you can use in-game. This hiding things in plain sight is extended to the NPCs, as some of their lines of dialogues are also cheat codes you can enter. Additionally, when joining a campfire with the non-playable characters, you'll hear them speak of Red Harlow, Red Dead Revolver's protagonist.
Would stand up to authority.
Very good, very good.
You heard of that Red Harlow fella? He was one of those men. Stood up to every man who blocked his path, Mexican army included. Nearly cost him his life, but he did.
Unglaublich.
Red Dead Revolver, if you were wondering, is Red Dead Redemption's spiritual prequel. In fact, Red Dead Redemption borrows heavily from this early game and constantly mentions it, albeit indirectly, whether characters' names or even locations like Twin Rocks, which is used as the name of a gang hideout in both games. Also, an early conversation with your son Jack sees him mention a story about a bounty hunter who is on the trail to get revenge for his father's murder. This is the storyline for Red Dead Revolver, and spookily enough serves as a premonition to Jack's own future.
What's the book, boy?
Nothing, sir.
What's it about?
Well, it's an adventure, sir. Set out in the West, and it tells this amazing story of how people killed the savage Redskins, and how this man, this brave man, hunts the man who killed his father.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Talking of adventure, how'd you like to learn to track elk?
The DLC Undead Nightmare only builds on the Easter egg collection, seeing John Marston hunt down and kill a family of Sasquatch.
Shoot me, human! Shoot me!
Oh, I will, you foul creature of the night.
You'll be granting me peace.
Why's that? Keep you from eating more babies?
What in the name of all that's right are you talking about, human?
You eat babies. You have to survive. Everyone knows that. Ain't your fault.
We eat berries and mushrooms, you fool! But we did. Now none of us are left. Some maniac's been murdering us.
The achievement for this is called 6 Years in the Making, a reference to a huge myth coming from the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas community. You see, they were convinced there was a Sasquatch in the mountains of San Andreas, so would search for it day and night over the years. The French version of this achievement is even said to translate as "Seek it no more, CJ." The only thing that set the Grand Theft Auto community talking more was my Grand Theft Auto 5 theory, is Franklin CJ's son video. I can proudly say this channel made that theory go mainstream, as it gained an impressive 2 million views, despite copycat videos popping up after mine, because of the backing of the GTA community. So thanks for that. Red Dead Redemption isn't without its own myths, however, the most famous of which is the town of Tumbleweed. The fact is, the whole area seems to be haunted, from ghostly voices to apparitions appearing, all this taking place at strange times and in certain circumstances. To be honest, I won't be looking into this one, as the whole thing makes me uncomfortable. Red Dead Redemption didn't just pay respect to Western films and its Tombstone Easter eggs either. Many of the game's missions and cutscenes draw heavy influence from classic Western films and some new additions too. Take the gritty styling that seems to be lifted straight off Clint Eastwood's shoulders to make up John Marston's look. The Gatling gun's inclusion is likely inspired by films like The Wild Bunch. Whilst the themes and vistas in Red Dead Redemption could said to be shared by many Western films, certain aspects are a little closer to the bone, be it cutscenes, mission scenarios, or even the promotional game art. But I think it's the touch of real life in the game that sets it apart from the rest. like John Marston's iconic Cattleman revolver, which is based off the Colt single-action army gun in real life. This weapon was standard military service issue until 1892. It was popular with ranchers and men on both sides of the law for some time after that. Or how you use snake oil to refill John Marston's Deadeye meter. You see, snake oil was first used in China as a remedy for joint pain and inflammation. It turns out that the Chinese water snake's fat is high in omega-3, making it a natural alternative to the likes of ibuprofen. So when foreign Chinese nationals moved to America to work on the railroads there, their tonic naturally went there too. Whilst in the US, the snake oil's usefulness became embellished as a cure-all tonic. These fraudulent salesmen would later be known as snake oil salesmen, a saying still in use today as a way of noting that someone is selling lies. In Red Dead Redemption, of course, this is personified by conman Nigel West Dickens.
Gather round. Do you suffer from rheumatism, lumbago, acute chronic sciatic, neurologic or inflammatory pain? Well, I represent the only company that makes the genuine article that cures headaches, neuralgia, earache, toothaches, backache, swelling, sprains, sore chests, swelling of the throats, contracted cords and muscles, anxieties and ravaged nerves, stiff joints, wrenches, dislocations, cuts and bruises, and it adds vitality and vigor to the healthy man.
We also have Professor Harold McDougall, a man with qualifications on paper, but no real clue when it comes to real-world events. It's not just that his inclusion in Red Dead Redemption mocks the pseudo-intellectuals or those who blindly worship at the altar of science, it's his habit that's most interesting. You see, Harold is addicted to cocaine, a drug that was marvelled at the time as a wonder drug for the rich, much like snake oil. The difference is, it was endorsed by high-ranking men and women in society, including Sigmund Freud and Thomas Edison. Incidentally, it's where the now famous Coca-Cola drink takes the coca part of its name. It contained actual cocaine, making it one addictive drink, I'm sure. However, cocaine's addictive quality saw the government crack down on the drug when the Harrison Act was passed, heavily controlling and restricting the drug's use and supply. The government did this by attaching the stigma that crazed Negroes became superhuman-powered menaces when on the substance. The shame of which meant that no self-respecting white rich person could be associated with the drug anymore, at least not publicly. This government manipulation of the facts wasn't possible and certainly not enforceable without stealing more power from the United States' own people. In came the Bureau of Investigation, a department made up of secret agents, later known as special agents. The Bureau would become much more invasive and later be known as the FBI under the supervision of an ambitious Bureau of Investigation director, a certain J. Edgar Hoover. Under then President Theodore Roosevelt, this federal organisation invaded the sovereignty of the individual states and forced them under their control.
Well, you know, we've lived here for 30 years now. Came here from the east. The land had never been settled. For 10 years, we fought the Indians. Tough men. Then we had outlaws, and we had drought, and we had smallpox, terrible winters, cholera. I buried more of my children than I raised.
Sorry to hear that, sir.
I've seen strong men wither and die under that unforgiving sun. That whole herds of cattle just take sick and die. But I've never once doubted my life here.
No, sir.
When I hear about this so-called federal government sending out agents to covertly murder and control people, then I start to worry. I mean, yeah, all right, Williamson is a menace, and men like him are the plague. But isn't a government agent a worse menace? And all that symbolizes, I mean.
You may be right, sir.
Well, you're a brave man. You're always gonna be welcome here. But you tell your friends out east that we don't want to live like that out here. Sneaking around and spying and secret missions. It's preposterous.
Trust me, sir. I agree with you.
And this is why Red Dead Redemption was so brilliant. You see, John Marston's tale marks the end of the American dream. The fact it's referred to as the Wild West only cements how modern day politics would have you view freedom and personal choice as a bad thing. This is why Red Dead Redemption is set at that period of time, so you can witness the murder of the American dream firsthand. It's very subtle and can only be understood by those with a grasp of historical and current events. I can say I'm lucky enough to have enjoyed the story of Red Dead Redemption twice. Once as a young man, and later having more presence of mind. The final scene of John Marston facing up to the evil men of the state made me cry as a young man. Seeing my hero, who I lived as, within the game for countless hours being gunned down after he tried to live as a good man and do right by his family was truly heartbreaking. But now, understanding the context in which that scene was framed, I now know who John Marston really was. Just like Clint Eastwood in High Plains Drifter was the man with no name, a spirit returned to exact revenge on those who wronged him in life, so too was John Marston a spirit. He was the spirit of the free American people, the embodiment of the American dream. The idea that you can overcome what life throws at you and make a go of things for yourself is John Marston's whole story. The government showing up at John's ranch symbolises the insidious arrival of a secretive organisation in America, able to manipulate or destroy whoever or whatever it wants. As John Marston steps out of the barn to face the cowards who have betrayed his trust on their terms, he meets his demise. Each bullet that strikes this man of conviction hits the soul of every American man and woman who believe in the American dream. These criminals don't wear face masks like a bandit because they're so sure of their dominance. Even more contemptible, they carry out this abhorrent murder under the name of the American flag, the spirit of which they destroy and whose symbol they assume as their own identity in order for people to follow their carefully orchestrated plan. John's death doesn't mark the death of one man, it marks the death of freedom itself.
When I'm gone, they'll just find another monster. They have to.